Okay, so just answering questions from my other phone. What do Buddhism say about suicide? Well, number one, don't do it because a desire to non-exist constitutes a negative karma. Attachment. The fact that you are attached to not wanting to exist. So if you took your life in Buddhism, you will take unfavorable rebirth. Perhaps the hungry ghost realm. Okay. You can look up 6 rebirth realms in Buddhism. Where are you from? I am from originally Nha Trang, Vietnam. And it's beautiful. It's got the beach and ocean just like this. Let me see some of the questions here. So you can practice Buddhism and Christianity at the same time because Buddhism emphasizes understanding the mind. So when you understand your mind, you can apply that. There's this saying, right? Finding God, you found yourself. Finding yourself, you found God. Right? And my personal standpoint on God is we wouldn't know some of these answers until we die, pass away. It's too far-fetched for us to sit here and think about all of these philosophical questions. We have a lot to do as a human. If we live life right, if we keep the precept and 10 commandments, then you can be in fact closer to God, right? And you would make him proud and not angry at you. If you do not keep the 10 commandments, well, how do you think you're going to encounter God? How are you going to justify yourself? Okay. How do I get into Buddhist ways? I feel stuck with life and my mind sometimes. Okay, buddhanet.net is going to be a central source, and dhammatalks.org and accesstoinsight.org. Once again, the 3 websites, very good to get into Theravada Buddhism, is accesstoinsight.org, dhammatalks.org, accesstoinsight.org. Okay. I just feel that Buddhism is very beautiful and that it aims to answer a lot of questions we have. We go to bed with these questions. You can't sleep well if you are not at peace. You got to be at peace in order to sleep well, right? If you don't sleep well, you're not going to live long, and you suffer from head to toe, the whole review of systems. And when we have these things in our mind and these questions about life and death and meaning and purpose and who are we, who am I, Buddhism aims to answer that effectively so that you know who you are, you're confident who you are, you love who you are, you accept who you are, and you don't have to need the exterior world to like your picture, to validate you, to accept you, to keep you, and the 3 things that we need as human, which is to be seen, to be heard, and to be respected. When we hear ourselves, that's meditation. When we see ourselves, okay, and when we respect ourselves, self-respect, and that's something that it's a rare thing these days, right? When we see in other people, especially on the path to finding relationships, male, female, vice versa, LGBTQIA+, and some of us are just like, wow, Tom, Dick, and Harry, wow, Felicia, Karen, or Rebecca, or whatever the case may be. You really don't respect yourself, do you? And so the word self-respect is very important. And when people don't respect themselves, they just throw themselves out there. They just use drugs. They break the precepts. They break the commandments. And it's like, how's that quality of life? How does that bring happiness, peace, liberation to your life, per individual? Okay. To see here some more questions. Can I be Buddhist without believing in samsara? So the word samsara means the cycle of nonsense, right? In its simplest form to answer to all of you is that samsara is a cycle, meaning birth and death. Birth of a thought, death of a thought, birth of an emotion, death of an emotion. So if you're in a relationship, this is like one of the best examples, if you're in a relationship where it's unwholesome, and there's no compassion, understanding, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of arguments over the smallest things, it's foolishness. So when you come home and you see this person, and here comes the wheel of samsara, the birth of a thought, usually a birth of an unwholesome thought, and usually it's complaints. And then there's a birth of emotions, right? And then that thought arises and that thought ceases. That thought was born and that thought dies. Then the emotion that comes after that thought, because we know in cognitive psychology, the way how we think leads to the way how we feel, the way how we feel leads to the way how we think, thus leading to the behavior at hand. So then it gives birth to a feeling, and then the death of that feeling, and then you feel awful, they feel awful, you guys break up, and you guys don't text each other, don't call each other. So that is one primary example of samsara. Another cycle of samsara is not liking where you go to work, you know? Like you get there and it's a cycle of doing my 8 and hitting the gate, doing my 8 and hitting the gate. And you refuse to change, you refuse to further your education and training so that you can find somewhere that really have sense and meaning and purpose in your life, rather than staying in one spot and complaining over and over again. So in Buddhism, you have to believe in samsara. You have to understand and see that concept clearly, because it propels you to change. It propels you to change your own system. If you were to reject some of these key salient teachings, it wouldn't serve you well, you know, because when you consult me, one of the qualifying teachers is that I'm like, well, Tom, Dick, and Harry, Karen, Rebecca, and Karen, whatever, you know, it seems like you've been on this samsaric wheel. So you need to know these type of vocabulary so that your mind's like, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about when I went back with my ex and I knew that that was going to be unwholesome, and I knew that that was going to be a whole ball game, and the old games that they play, we play, and so on. So the aim of the concept of some of these vocabularies and definitions in Buddhism is to help you understand the system of life and the system of people and the tendencies of our mind. And once we understand that, we can now direct the mind better. Direct the mind towards something more wholesome, something more positive, conducive, and productivity, effectiveness, and efficiency, and stop playing around with some of these things that we just take for granted. You know, we're not going to be here forever. You better fix the system quickly. Ain't nobody got time for all that. You just got to tell yourself, right? Okay. Could I be Buddhist? I don't believe in afterlife, but I do believe in... You know, the afterlife is also far-fetched for us to cling on, right? Or attach to, right? But believe and bet. Bet that if you live a good life, you will have a good death. Bet that if you live a good life, you will most likely take a favorable, good rebirth. So again, the rebirth realm, the respect for the rebirth realms give wise fear to live a righteous life, a judicious life, so that we don't cause harm to ourselves and other people. That's the point of it, right? You know, I don't attach, I don't know where I'm gonna go after I die. All I know is I'm here serving all of you and doing this the most good as I can, giving more, taking less, not doing harm to myself, not doing harm to other people, and purifying my mind. So simple, right? So simple. That's why my adamant standing in Buddhism is that enlightenment and nirvana is easy to attain. That it is simple. And this is a very simple, chill way of life. Happy way of life. All right. We're coming up on 9 minutes in the 10-minute video on TikToks. Let's see here. This is Indian Rocks Beach, Narota, 3rd, 4th, yeah. So as we're coming to an end with this talk and answering some of your wonderful questions, I invite all of you to visit buddhanet.net and research into Theravada Buddhism, the school of the elders. Look at the Four Noble Truths. All three schools agree on the Four Noble Truths. And you will, in fact, achieve peace, and you will find the answers to your questions. Hopefully I have done a good job at answering your questions. If you have further questions, please reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, or my email, the number 1 Vietnamese interpreter at Gmail, the number 1 Vietnamese interpreter at Gmail. You can text me at 727-459-1697, 727-459-1697. May you all be well. It is getting dark. Monks are not allowed out when it is dark. 227 rules we have to keep. So take care until the very next time, and keep the questions coming. Sa tu sa tu sa tu.